Euro is $188.07. Up next, trading news from the Jamaica Stock Exchange. 106 stocks traded on the JSE Tuesday, of which 39 advanced, 40 declined, and 27 traded firm. Leading the winners were Access Financial Services, Margaritaville Turks US Dollar, Mayberry Jamaican Equities, and Sagicor Real Estate X Fund. While the losers were led by ISP Finance Services, Jamaica Public Service Company 7%, Sterling Investments US Dollar, and Nusrat Express. The main index declined by 80.17 or 0.03% to close at 308,775.28. The junior market index also declined but by 2.94 or 0.09% to close at 3,436.80. In today's market education feature, we'll be defining the term weights or weighting. Weighting refers to adjusting figures to reflect the relative importance of their components. A weighted average, for example, gives more influence to certain elements based on significance rather than treating all equally. In the stock market, different indices use different weighting methods. The Dow Jones Industrial Average (DJIA) is price weighted, meaning higher-priced stocks have a greater impact on the index. By contrast, the S&P 500 and Nasdaq Composite are market capitalization weighted, giving more weight to companies with larger market value. And that's it for Market Education feature and the end of the local segment. Please stay with us. The regional business news is up next. The local news is brought to you by Derriman Trading, better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances, Tease the Senses, and Pulse Investments. Welcome back. We go now to news from across the region. The Development Bank of Latin America and the Caribbean, CAF, will double its investments in ocean protection and sustainable marine industries, committing an additional $2.5 billion between 2025 and 2030 to the region. The new pledge significantly expands CAF's financial backing for the blue economy after the bank surpassed its original $1.25 billion commitment for the 2022-2026 period. Over the past 3 years alone, CAF has deployed $1.3 billion into initiatives such as expanding marine protected areas, improving wastewater and flood drainage systems, and strengthening small-scale fisheries. CAF Executive Vice President Gianpiero Leoncini made the announcement on the weekend during an International Oceans Finance Conference in Monaco, describing the funding as part of a transformative agenda to integrate ocean health into regional development. The upcoming $2.5 billion in funding will focus on low-carbon maritime transport, restoration of degraded marine ecosystems, and sustainable coastal tourism and community resilience. The Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, ECCB, is marking a significant milestone 49 years since the Eastern Caribbean dollar, EC dollar, was pegged at a fixed rate of $2.70 to $1. This enduring peg has been a cornerstone of economic stability for the region's small island developing states, SIDS. Governor Timothy Antoine hailed the achievement as a tremendous accomplishment and a source of regional pride. He underscored the strategic decision taken on July 7, 1976, when the currency peg was shifted from the British pound sterling to the US dollar, reflecting the United States' growing role as the region's primary trading partner. The decision has allowed us to enjoy relatively low inflation, says the governor. On average, inflation has remained between 2 and 3% over the past 49 years, with exceptions such as in 2022 during the pandemic when it spiked to 9%, he added. Beyond inflation control, the fixed peg reinforces confidence in the EC dollar's strength among both residents and investors. The governor emphasized the ease of foreign exchange access with the currency union, noting there are no exchange rate controls. If commercial banks lack foreign exchange, they can directly purchase from the central bank, which maintains ample reserves at all times, he explained. In other news, in a landmark development for digital finance in the Caribbean, Trinidad and Tobago is set to adopt India's Unified Payments Interface, UPI, the world's most widely used real-time digital payment platform. The UPI platform, developed by India's National Payments Corporation, facilitates instant money transfers 24/7 through mobile devices using QR codes or phone numbers. The announcement was made by India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi during a 2-day visit at the invitation of Prime Minister Kamla Prasad Bisesa to Trinidad and Tobago last week.
We also welcome your decision to adopt the UPI digital payment system. It is a major step forward. UPI has revolutionized digital payments in India. Powered by the platform, India has become the nation with the highest number of real-time digital payments in the world.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Now to trading news from the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange. 20 securities traded on the TTSE Tuesday, of which 3 advanced, 12 declined, and 5 traded firm. Today's winners were Unilever Caribbean, CIBC Caribbean Bank, and Scotiabank TNT, while leading the losers were Point Lissus Industrial Port Development, Trinidad Cement, Angostura Holdings, and Ansa McCall. Other results of the day include the All TNT Index declining by 10.17 to close at 1,489.19. The Composite Index declining by 4.74 to close at 1,019.45. However, the cross-listed index advanced by 0.15 to close at 72.35, and still at 96.37 is the SME index. And we go for a short break, but please do stay with us. The international news segment with Nielsen Rose is up next.
Welcome back, and thanks for staying with us. In the international news today, global bond yields surged on Tuesday as investors reacted to escalating trade tensions and shifting economic signals. In the United States, the 10-year Treasury yield climbed above 4.4%, a two-week high following President Donald Trump's announcement of 25% tariff on 14 countries, including major exporters Japan and South Korea. Across the Atlantic, the UK's 10-year gilt yield rose to 4.65%, its highest in a month, amid renewed fiscal uncertainty and the looming expiration of a 90-day tariff pause on reciprocal tariffs. In Europe, Germany's 10-year bond yield approached 2.65%, the highest since late May, while France's equivalent rose above 3.35%, marking a peak not seen since mid-May. Meanwhile, Canada's 10-year bond yield edged past 3.36%, driven by increased government bond supply, persistent inflation, and expectations of continued hawkishness from the Bank of Canada. The synchronized rise in yields reflect growing investor caution amid a complex global economic and geopolitical landscape. Crude oil prices fell on Tuesday as rising supply and escalating trade tensions clouded the demand outlook. Brent crude futures dropped to around $69.20 per barrel, while WTI crude slipped to approximately $67.50, both retreating from recent two-week highs. The declines followed President Trump's announcement of a new 25% tariff on imports from key trading partners, including Japan and South Korea, set to take effect August 1. These measures have heightened fears of a slowdown in global trade and energy demand. At the same time, OPEC Plus agreed to raise output by 548,000 barrels per day in August, its fourth consecutive monthly increase, restoring nearly 80% of the voluntary cuts made earlier by 8 member nations. While the supply boost added to concerns of a potential glut later this year, losses were partially offset by renewed geopolitical risks, including a second attack by Yemen's Houthi rebels on a vessel in the Red Sea, threatening key shipping lanes. Goldman Sachs has become the second major Wall Street bank this week to raise its year-end forecast for the S&P 500, signaling a growing optimism about the U.S. equity market's resilience. The firm's chief U.S. equity strategist, David Costin, lifted the 2025 year-end target to 6,600, up from 6,100, reflecting a nearly 6% upside from the indice's latest close. Costin also raised the 3-month and 12-month targets to 6,400 and 6,900 respectively. The revision follows a strong market rebound from April's tariff-driven sell-off, with the S&P 500 recently hitting record highs. Goldman Sachs attributed its bullish outlook to expectations of earlier and deeper Federal Reserve rate cuts, lower bond yields, and continued strength among large-cap stocks. The firm also revised its forward price-to-earnings ratio (PE) ratio forecast to 22 times, up from 20.4 times, suggesting investors are willing to look past near-term earnings softness. Goldman's move comes just a day after Bank of America raised its own S&P 500 target to 6,300 from 5,600, making Goldman one of the most bullish firms on Wall Street. Despite the rally being led by a narrow group of stocks, Costin expects broader market participation in the coming months, noting that many indices constituents will remain well below their 52-week highs. Meta Platforms has reportedly lured away one of Apple's top artificial intelligence executives, Romain Pan, in a significant move that underscores the intensifying battle for AI talent among tech giants. According to Bloomberg, Pang is set to join Meta's newly formed superintelligence division with a compensation package reportedly worth tens of millions of dollars annually. His departure marks a notable setback for Apple, which has faced mounting investor concerns over its perceived lag in the AI race. Apple's shares have struggled this year, reflecting skepticism about the company's ability to keep pace with rivals like Meta, Microsoft, and Google in the rapidly evolving AI landscape. And those were your international business stories. After the break, join Neil for your recap.
Welcome back, and now to recap our top stories. In the local news, Prime Minister Holness urges CARICOM to act swiftly on Paris Agreement climate financing. Regionally, Development Bank of Latin America and the Caribbean commits an additional $2.5 billion to ocean protection. And on the international scene, Meta poaches a top AI executive from Apple. Those were the stories making today's CBX Evening News. On behalf of Nielsen Rose and the entire production team, I'm Neil Wood, wishing for you a splendid evening, and thanks for watching CBX News, your region, your business, your source.